Okay, good morning. Hey, we got shut out last week. I'm not really sure what happened, but I'm going to keep my phone close to me. So if any of you guys watching that know how to get a hold of me, I'm going to keep it close. Let me know that we're on. Okay, phone. All right, let's get going. It's a little early, and as usual, we are we're live here from Boulder, Colorado. And let's just make sure, just shooting Carly a quick text. Watch the live YouTube, please. Okay, all right. So we want to really focus today on the adductor group and really making sure that we have mobility through the adductor group. And that's also going to include activating and anchoring into the adductor group. So we're going to kind of try to switch it on. And I do this because that's a debatable topic, to be honest. So we're going to start with lower leg, and I want the belly of the calf muscle working windshield wiper through the foam roller. So I've just got a little trigger point foam roller, but I also have the 3-foot foam roller. I use that a lot in my mobility practice. So it's never, I don't think you can have too many foam rollers, really. And as long as you're actively using them, you should be using them every single day. So belly of the calf muscle, not a lot of pressure through it. And we're just trying to be nice. Think about on Mondays, being good to yourself, being good to the body, because I want to have a great training week. I got sidelined a little bit last week with a cold. Had to take a couple of rest days, but I gotta say, don't ever underestimate the value of a rest day. My friend Gordo Byrne talks a lot about older athletes. You know, that'd be like the 40-plus crew, taking 2 days off in a scheduled day. You know, a lot of times I was scheduling my days off for like Mondays and, what was my other day off? Mondays and Fridays. And then I would train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Gordo talks a lot about getting 2 days off in a row. And I think that I'm going to play with that this spring and summer, especially going into big sessions. So definitely I'm going to stay active on those off days. Okay, we're taking the foam roller into the upper back. So we're skipping the hip complex right now, but we are going to come back to it. And so Gordo talks a lot about taking these 2 days off. So I'm training for this bike trip to Mallorca, and it's really going to be an interesting trip because here in Colorado, the weather's been a little bit crap. So the pros have gotten out for sure, and I think there's some competitive age groupers that have gotten out, but like it's been sunny, but it hasn't been really warm. And so I don't have a lot of days out on the road, and I'm going to be doing some relatively technical descending in Mallorca. And I think I'm already trying to get myself mentally prepared, just working through the upper back, working through extension to probably back off just a little bit and don't chase the guides as much as I do. I love descending. I consider myself a pretty good descender, even with technical courses, but maybe by the end of the week while I'm there, I'm start feeling my vibe again. But the biggest thing is that the body has to be ready and in a position to do what the brain and the imagination knows that you can do, right? Because I know I visualize some friends of mine that I have had the pleasure of chasing down a mountain for at least a small window of time, because I usually get dropped quite quickly because my friends are very, very good at what they do. I don't ride with them very often at all because it's not fun for them and it's not really that fun for me. So nice and easy through the upper back, through the lats, and through the rib cage. There we go. Okay, good. All right, so it's about 6:46. Daylight savings time, not my favorite time of the year this couple weeks. It's not surprising, to be honest, that I did succumb to a little bit of a cold going into this time change. These time changes are tough. They're tough on our bodies. So it's good that healthy people heal quicker. You can't usually get away from getting a cold, but you can really dictate how you get out of it. All right, so let's take that knee up to the hip, height of the hip, and we're just gonna foam roll through the adductors. Whenever my athletes walk in the room, I usually am like, okay, let's foam roll adductors, and they just roll their eyes, and then they get into this position, and then you can just see in their faces that little bit of discomfort, and I'm feeling it a little bit myself. So adductors can get very tight, not only from performance and from cycling and running, but also from sitting. So airplanes, cars, planes, trains, and automobiles, people. All right, get that foam roller right up there next to that pubic symphysis. Good. Up high. And then let's get it down by that VMO. And just through the VMO, let's work a little bit of internal rotation. So we're just toggling that ankle up and down. The VMO is a meeting place. It's the vastus medialis orbitus or obliquus, depending on where you were raised or where you studied. But it's a really important muscle, to be honest, that can be inhibited by tightness. So it's usually spicy in there. The sartorius comes down into that spot, the adductors come down into that, and the medial hamstring. And so we really want to work through that little teardrop muscle of the inner thigh and the inner part of the quad. All right, other side. Let's get that knee all the way up to the hip, and just this foam roller should be perpendicular to the femur. And we're going to work through that adductor. All the way up high. When you get up high, that's into that adductor magnus. And magnus has anterior fibers and posterior fibers. They have responsibilities on either side of that same muscle. So the anterior fibers really can provide assistance into internal rotation of the hips, which is so important when it comes to having balance in the utilization of the hip complex. So adductor, the anterior fibers of magnus are someone we want in the game. And by using the foam roller, we're giving them the opportunity to get in the game. Okay, so let's get down into that VMO on that left side. And we're just going to rotate through the foot. Internal rotation is so important in running, and especially downhill running. So if you're an athlete who loves ultra running, and you can really are either you're competitive or you just know you were born to downhill, or maybe you weren't born to downhill and you want to be a better downhiller, being able to fall comfortably and in a really precision-based way into internal rotation of that hip just becomes a magical thing to have. All right, internal rotation, internal. Every time that foot comes up, that hip goes into internal rotation. Who's driving that? A lot of the anterior fibers of adductor magnus. All right, good. All right, so that's working through that. So let's go ahead and work through the lateral half kneeling position. So right foot is out. We also don't want to ignore ankle mobility. So this is the position that your foot probably wants to go into. I want you to pull the heel outside of the toes and just drop the hips back. Two hands on your fingertips, and just gently push the hips back. Keep this foot nice and straight. Keep all the toes on the ground, and just working through that gentle hip hinge. Fingertips strong. Keep the upper back in a strong position. And good. And let's change to that lateral half kneeling position on the other side. Put that right there. Make sure that ankle is in a great position. I want tension. I want you to pull your palm of your hand away from the ground. That keeps tension in the upper body. If there's stability through the upper body, we're going to probably get more mobility through the hips. So we're trying to stabilize by not just relaxing into the upper body, right? So we want to stabilize the upper body just a little bit by pulling the palms away from the floor and just push the hips back. Keep that toe nice and forward. Good. And good. All right. So working through the SI joint, the sacroiliac joint, we're going to get into a quadruped position on hands and knees. Your right knee is going to, let's get the mat out here. Your right knee is going to be in front of your left knee only by about 2 or 3 inches. So 5 inches or 6 isn't going to make a difference. I want 2 or 3 inches, so just a little bit of an offset through the knee. This time we're going to spread the fingers and put the palms of the hands onto the ground. Head is nice and neutral, so don't drop your head. Head's neutral like you're looking down the road if you're on the bike. Drop the hips back, all the way back, and then all the way forward over the wrists. You get a little bit of tension through the hands, and then come all the way back again. So this is sacroiliac joint gliding, and we're just through this very safe position, getting a little hip toggle through the lower part of the body. Good. If you can tuck your toes under in the back, go ahead and do that. Try not to lay the like that with your feet. Don't lay the tops of your feet down. See if you can get a little more work through the toes, through the big toe. Flexion through the big toe is never a bad thing, and this is a pretty low stress position. Way forward, work through the wrists. Work through the wrists. Couple more. Man, good. Okay, so that was right knee in front of left. Let's just, you don't have to turn around. I'm going to go left knee 2 or 3 inches in front of right, because that SI joint shouldn't move that much. It should glide like 3 degrees. That's very, very small. But if you have 0, you're going to know it, because you're not going to feel freedom in your hips. All right, so left leg in front of right. Hands just directly under the shoulders. Spread the fingers, and that adds the tension. And we drop into the back of the hips, tuck the toes under, and then really look over the cliff. Back, and then look over the cliff. Good. Subtle movements. And I was talking to my friend Lawrence this weekend. We were talking about one of the greatest triathletes of all time, the GOAT, and how really advanced athletes, high performance athletes who really notice the subtle changes and the subtleties of mobility and activation through the body, but they notice the little things, and they're willing to do the little things that will give them a huge advantage. So as we do these really kind of boring movements, sometimes boring is exactly what you need. Right there. Push and back. And if you can notice as I'm moving, I can't feel my hips toggling as you can't feel your hips toggling. But when I watch an athlete, I'm just looking for this, just through the sacrum. And it just dances so nicely. Okay, let's go right back to that half kneeling position. Right knee out. And now we're going to do exactly what we did before. So fingertips on the ground. We're just going to rock back. We should be getting a little bit more motion. Push back. 2. Now that SI joint's starting to open up. 3, 4. We got 10 of these. 5. See if you can tuck that big toe under in the back. 6, 7. Starting to feel a little bit more lateral hamstring as I push back. 8. And I just kind of take it, you take it to a comfortable stopping point. This is not a fight with yourself, right? You just need to be patient. The body will give you what it can handle movement-wise. The brain is constantly assessing, am I safe here? Am I not safe here? And that's why as fatigue starts to elevate, your body gets smaller, your movement gets smaller. The more you practice mobility, the longer that gets offset in your training and racing. So everybody's going to get shortened positions. If you practice mobility on an ongoing practice, it's a practice, it's not an event, then all of a sudden that's going to last longer because you're going to build this trusting relationship, good, with your brain who makes all the decisions, right? Okay, good. All right, let's go right back to lateral half kneeling on the right. The right leg is up. Now, instead of stabilizing the upper body, we're going to rotate through it and start to really mobilize through that thoracic spine, okay? So right here, we're just going to push the hips back, and when the hips are back, we're just gently reaching under with the right hand, and we start to understand the relationship. As we reach with the right hand, the left shoulder starts to rotate, and then we get a little bit more enhanced attention to the right hamstring and glute, right? So this is left shoulder, right side, but we're moving the right upper body. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then let's switch to the other side. Left leg out, hands out. We're going to push the hips back, reach under with the left arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, one more, and 5. Now let's do a little progression on that. My whole day is spent progressing and regressing, mobility and movement and load and everything. So it's all about those subtle changes. Let's go ahead this time. Right leg out, right arm under, left arm up. Left arm back, right arm back. Let the hips come forward, right? Push the hips back, right arm under, left arm up. Left arm forward, right arm forward. Unload that tissue. Hips back, right arm under, left arm up. Left arm, right arm. Unload the tissue. Go ahead, right back. We got for number 4 right here. Good. Push the hips back, right arm under, left arm up. Come on back and come on back. All right, good. From that lateral half kneeling position, shake that out just a little bit. Left leg out. Here we go, left arm under. Let's see what happens here. Keep the fingertips on the ground. Ooh, a little tighter on this side. Good. Not forcing anything. Take it. You'll get a little more every time. That could be a tight bicep that inhibits that adductor. Imagine that. The right bicep attached to the left adductor. It's true. Good and good. All right, let's go ahead and take it to a standing position. Just get comfortable on 2 feet. Shake it out. Little bit of a wide stance. We're going to use, from foundation training, that founder position. All right? So heels outside of toes. Heels outside of toes brings the knees in, and we start to strengthen internal rotation of the hips. We start to fire the anterior fibers of Magnus. we start to, when Magnus gets strong, glute med and lateral glutes and glutes in general start to get in the game. They're like, oh, I got a teammate on the inside of the thigh. I can actually push out and push out. No matter, once you get up and running in endurance running, you're probably not going to be pushing out too much. You're going to be more rolling forward. But this position for acceleration and deceleration is a big deal. Okay, heels outside of toes. Push your hips back. So you look kind of dumb here. Hips, knees are just biased towards the midline. Push the hips back. Let the hands come to the front. And we're just going to go in and out of a founder 10 times. Push the hips back. Knees are in. Heels outside of toes. Push your hips back. Come right back out. So it's nice and quick. Push the hips back 3. You should start feeling the loading of your high hamstrings. 4. 5. Toes are on the ground. 6. 7. 8. 9. One more. And 10. Okay, so now that we have some motion there, we have a little bit of trust going with the central governor. If you have a big ball, grab it, go get it from under your desk, because I know you're trying to sit on it to strengthen your core. That's a whole nother episode. Get a chair, don't sit on a ball. Okay, heel, especially if you're active. It's just too much. Your nervous system just elevates the minute you sit on the ball because it is unstable, right? So then your core switches on a little bit, which you think is strengthening it. I might argue that it's fatiguing it and taking away from it being able to function when you train. So think about that. What I want is heels outside of toes. The ball is strong and tight between the knees. See if you can walk your feet even stronger into the ball. Hips to the back, and we're going to squeeze the crap out of the ball. 5. Hold it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then release it. Then squeeze it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then let it out. Squeeze it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's pretend you don't have a ball. If you have a ball, keep squeezing it. But if you don't have a ball, what we would want, assess the position. I want you to push your heels out, pull your toes in, and you get the same activation of the adductors, just anchoring in with no ball. Squeeze. 5, 4. If you want to intensify it, add the hands to the front. 3, 2, 1. Come right back out of it. One more anchoring activation. Push the hips back, heels out, toes in, squeeze the adductors. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shake that out. Your lower body throughout the day, see if you can start to get heels out, toes in, and just be able to move through that position. So the hips are decoupled quite nicely. SI joint is gliding just a little bit. Hamstrings have been loaded, adductors are activated. You should be really feeling good through your hips. So have a great session today. Hopefully it's something easy and working into a hard day tomorrow. Terrible Tuesday all around the world. You guys, thanks for coming to Monday Mobility. I will see you next week. Talk soon.